Jake DeBrusk has officially requested a trade, and Brad Marchand has been suspended 3 games. All that and more on a busy episode of the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. Let's get into it.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things spoke to be, as well as take a look around the NHL. Today is Tuesday, November 30th, and this episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. The holidays are around the corner, and finding the perfect gift is tricky. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift guaranteed to be loved. Go to omahasteaks.com, enter NHL into the search bar to order the perfect gift package. I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms for you to subscribe, download, listen, and enjoy. You can also find the podcast on YouTube, so please subscribe over there. We are on the verge of setting a new monthly high for downloads in the 2+ years history of the podcast. So I thank you very much for that, and excited to see what December and the rest of this season holds. November certainly ending with some interesting developments with regards to our Boston Bruins. Like I mentioned off the top, Jake DeBrusk has officially tendered a trade request looking for a change of scenery, and Brad Marchand has been suspended 3 games for a slew foot on Oliver Ekman-Larsson of the Vancouver Canucks. But let's begin with DeBrusk. The news came out on Monday that he has requested a trade. It was first reported by, I believe, TSN's Ryan Rishaug, who got word from his agent, Rick Vallette, that DeBrusk asked for a trade over the weekend. It was further reported by Elliot Friedman and confirmed by team president Cam Neely to Fluto Shinzawa out of The Athletic. DeBrusk was a healthy scratch for the Bruins' 3-2 win over Vancouver on Sunday after head coach Bruce Cassidy was not satisfied with his effort on Artemi Panarin's winning goal in the Bruins' loss to the Rangers on Black Friday. And I believe DeBrusk also had some family in town for Sunday's game. He was obviously watching from the press box, and that also kind of added to the disconnect between DeBrusk, Cassidy, and management. What prompted this request? Well, it's not all that surprising. It's surprising that it's become public, but a split between DeBrusk and the Bruins, kind of the writing has been on the wall for quite some time. Bruce Cassidy has often been critical of DeBrusk's defensive work. Not the first time he's been displeased with DeBrusk's effort defensively, also offensively. And while both sides were looking at a fresh start coming into this season, it's, DeBrusk has looked okay, but that extra effort hasn't been there night in and night out, and it was certainly evident in Friday's game against the New York Rangers. His future with the team was further clouded by, of course, the re-signing of Taylor Hall in the offseason. He's bumped down to the third line pretty permanently, and, with his impending RFA status, it was either time for the Bruins to commit to him long-term and for him to give them reason to, or, kind of look to this move. He's making $3.675 million this season. And again, third liner, not really delivering that secondary scoring. Bruce Cassidy the other day said, what happens with Jake and what we've seen over the last few years is when the production is there, you're getting more second effort. They kind of go hand in hand. When it's not there, we lose a little bit of that. That's been the ask of him for a number of years now. No drop off on his side of the ledger, this side of the ledger, just because the production isn't there. He added, any 20-goal scorer still only scores once every 4 games. If they're playing every game, more or less, you still need the other things. A little bit more of an ask there on second effort away from the puck, working to keep it out of your net, etc. We understand certain guys can be physical when they're not scoring or bringing something. And for him, it's foot speed. And I'd like to see that every night, Cassidy said. I'd like to see him impact the game with his foot speed every night in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the forecheck, attacking the net, penalty kill, whatever the case may be. That's where we're at. We're starting to see that drop off again. So it's a reminder, bring us the effort, and hopefully the production happens. But we need that. DeBrusk showed a lot of promise early on, of course, recording 27 goals in his second season with the Bruins. But it's been a steep drop off since then. He has not been the same since getting hit by Nazem Kadri of the Toronto Maple Leafs a couple years back. Last year, in and out of the lineup due to injuries, COVID protocols. He openly struggled with some mental health from the lockdown, which is completely understandable. 5 goals, 9 assists in 41 games last season. This year, 3 goals, 3 assists through 17 games. And again, it's not just about the production, but it's about that full effort every time he's on the ice. Bruce Cassidy wasn't seeing it as of late, and that led to the healthy scratch on Sunday. And that, I don't know if it prompted the trade request, but it certainly sealed the deal for DeBrusk. I believe it was something that had been made known back in the summer that, perhaps he wasn't super happy with his station as a Boston Bruin at the moment. And here we are. It's not to say a trade is imminent per se. It takes some time to work these things out, especially when it is public like this. The potential suitors, if they know that there is a clear break between the player and the management coaching staff, they can try to lowball, try to get the best deal possible, which is certainly fair. But the Bruins don't actually have the luxury of sitting him in order to facilitate a trade because of the suspension to Brad Marchand, which we will touch on here in a moment. Before we get to that, another word about Omaha Steaks. What's a holiday memory you have with Omaha Steaks? The holidays are around the corner. Finding the perfect gift can be tricky. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift guaranteed to be loved. Go to omahasteaks.com, enter NHL into the search bar to order the perfect gift package. For $99.99, you'll get 24 entrees like the world-famous bacon-wrapped filet mignons, chicken breasts, sides, desserts, so much more. When you use code NHL, you'll also get an additional 8 Omaha Steak burgers free with your order. We've all heard the reports about shortages and shipping delays, so don't wait. Order the perfect gift package today at omahasteaks.com and get those 8 free burgers when entering code NHL. Achieving gift greatness with Omaha Steaks is possible this year. Incredible flavor, incredible value, 100% guaranteed. omahasteaks.com, search keyword NHL. Thank you again for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. It really means a lot that the listenership is growing on a monthly basis. And please do tell a friend today about the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. And we can continue to grow this community of Bruins fans. Now, also on Monday, Boston Bruins star winger Brad Marchand was suspended 3 games for a slew foot incident on Vancouver Canucks defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson on Sunday. Marchand and Ekman-Larsson were both skating for a loose puck, heading into the boards. The Bruins forward initiated contact with the upper body before in the NHL's estimation, sweeping out Oliver Ekman-Larsson's left leg. Quote, the NHL said, these actions cause Ekman-Larsson to fall dangerously to the ice. It's important to note there's many occasions through a game where players use their legs or their stick and upper body to restrain or impede their opponents or to gain position in a puck battle. When these plays rise to the level of being illegal, the majority of those can be adequately punished with in-game penalties. Should note there was no penalty call on this one. What causes this play to rise to the level of supplemental discipline is Marchand's use of both his upper and lower body to take Ekman-Larsson to the ice in a dangerous fashion. Marchand had been suspended 6 times previously in his 822 career games. One of those was for slew footing, which the NHL made note of in the announcement. Now, it had been almost 4 years since his last suspension. That was an elbow to Marcus Johansson of the New Jersey Devils. And there was some confusion yesterday about kind of the repeat offender status. Because it had been more than 18 months, he wasn't considered a repeat offender when it comes to the salary that he forfeited. But the NHL, well within its rights to take into account his previous supplemental discipline history. So all that to say, Marchand, the 6 previous suspensions, even though it's been almost 4 years since his last one, were taken into account. And he will now miss tonight's game against the Detroit Red Wings, Thursday's game against the Nashville Predators, and then Saturday's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. His next game back will be next Wednesday in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. The Bruins will be on a Western Canadian road trip next week. His first game back will be against the same Vancouver Canucks team against which this offense was committed, specifically Oliver Ekman-Larsson. How that ties in with Jake DeBrusk? Well, you'll remember on Sunday that DeBrusk was scratched. He and Eric Howla, with Marchand being suspended, with Anton Blidh being out of the lineup with an injury, that will require both players to be inserted back into the lineup. So it's a bit of a tricky situation here where everybody knows that DeBrusk wants out. He's not happy with his role with the Boston Bruins. And now he's going to be thrust back into the lineup because of the suspension to Marchand and an injury to Anton Blidh. So DeBrusk is unhappy. Don Sweeney has to move one of his 6 selections in the 2015 draft. Kind of the only one that's panned out to date, although Jacobs Borrell has looked pretty good as of late and is mostly prompted, the scratching on Sunday was prompted by the lack of effort on Artemi Panarin's game-winning goal. Now, in fairness to DeBrusk, last season, I was not a huge fan of him being scratched often, of him being bumped from his natural left wing spot to the right side. He was scratched in the playoffs. He definitely struggled with the league's COVID-19 restrictions. It was a perfect shitstorm for DeBrusk last season as to why he did not produce. He came in thinking it's a fresh start. Every year's a new start, new line mates, new restrictions. Feels like it's back to the NHL again. That's why he loves playing the game, he said. That's why you work your whole life to play in this league. Again, 3 goals, 3 assists through 17 games. Not terrible production, but not, a world beater by any means. He's facing lesser defensive pairings as a result of being on the third line, currently on pace for 14 goals, 14 assists. And that's just not going to cut it if you're not making that extra effort in the defensive zone. So DeBrusk may have no choice but to play against the Red Wings tonight unless a deal is struck prior to then. Ty Anderson of 98.5 had a good article this morning kind of outlining some potential trade scenarios. The first player he mentioned is a guy that I've been talking about a lot this season, and that is Dylan Strome of the Chicago Blackhawks. They are reportedly interested in moving him. They've made him a healthy scratch very often. He was the third overall pick in 2015, the same draft year as DeBrusk. He had a 20-goal, 57-point season with the Blackhawks and Coyotes in 2019. 22 goals, 58 points in 110 games since. But he has also, found his ice time diminished in and out of the lineup, and he could very much use a change of scenery as well. He is a left-hand shot. He could play the wing, play center, and the Bruins do need some depth at center, and he could be a good option even to step into the second or third line roles as well. Other players he mentions, Max Domi of the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's another pending free agent in the final year of his deal. He's making $5.3 million, will be an unrestricted free agent next summer. So there's some risk there, but he might be a guy that fits with the Boston Bruins. They have some trade history with the Anaheim Ducks. Max Comtois might be available, although he's out with a hand injury at the moment. Chris Tierney of the Ottawa Senators, he mentions. Nino Niederreiter of the Carolina Hurricanes. Thomas Hertl, although it would take a lot more for the Bruins to acquire him. Jeremy Lauzon, perhaps reacquiring him. I've seen a lot of people talk about Evander Kane and the San Jose Sharks. If they're willing to eat half of Kane's $7 million salary through 2024-25, that's a big ask. But again, I don't know if he would fit in with the Bruins, and just personally not a guy that I would like to see the Boston Bruins acquire. Anyways, so those are some possibilities. There's always, the possibility of just trading him for picks. It might not be a player for player deal. It depends on how he performs if he plays tonight and in the time between when a deal could be facilitated. And let's be honest, his value isn't super high at the moment. So it's a tricky situation for everybody. I mentioned last night that, from what I've seen from DeBrusk on and off the ice, in Zoom and media availability, he seems like a very good dude who has a love for life when things are going well. And I hope he can land somewhere that he can regain that spark for sure. I know a lot of fans really love DeBrusk, his personality. I'm one of those people. I wish it hadn't come to this and that he could have kind of gotten off to a better start this season. But here we are. And of course, I'll definitely keep you posted here as things develop. Now, I am planning on being off tomorrow since it's my birthday. My wife, Lauren, and I are going to Niagara later this afternoon. The Bruins are playing the Red Wings tonight, so I might not have a podcast up tomorrow morning. But if something big happens, post something later in the day. But definitely be back on Thursday for a new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. Now, usually on Tuesdays, we do Atlantic Division Power Rankings. That's been bumped, obviously, because of these developments. And we'll talk more about the Red Wings game and some news and notes from around the NHL here in a moment. But first, a quick word about BetOnline. They have you covered for all sports action this holiday season. All you need to do is head over to their new updated website, either on your computer or your phone. Sign up for a free account today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use promo code LOCKEDON to receive the bonus. They have you covered for basketball, football, hockey, boxing, UFC, even some favorite Vegas casino games. the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports at BetOnline, where the game starts. And if you're looking for your second listen of the day, I recommend heading over to the Locked On Bets podcast, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs, free and available on all platforms. That's Locked On Bets. So, again, the Bruins do have a hockey game to play tonight. That will be against the Detroit Red Wings on home ice. It'll be interesting to see the kind of reception that Jake DeBrusk gets. It's kind of a big game for the Boston Bruins. They're behind the Red Wings in points. They do have 4 games in hand on Detroit, 1 point back with only 18 games played compared to Detroit's 22. So they're ahead of them in point percentage as well as goal differential, +5 compared to -10. So a very winnable game for the Boston Bruins, and one that we'll see presumably Taylor Hall jump up onto the top line. We could even see Jake DeBrusk on the second line, really, who will be the other left wingers? Perhaps Trent Frederick bouncing back over to the left wing, Eric Haula coming back at center. It'll be interesting to see what the lineup looks like without Marchand and Blidh in the lineup. The depth on the left side will be tested, and certainly DeBrusk will be counted on to help the team here in a pinch. Now, what else is going on around the NHL? The Montreal Canadiens, of course, in the midst of a big shakeup. Jeff Gorton taking over as the director of hockey operations. They lost last night to the Vancouver Canucks. So not off to a great start there, but certainly be some shakeups coming there. There's some COVID concerns around the league. Brett Pesce and Tony DeAngelo joined Ethan Bear on the COVID protocol list in Carolina. William Karlsson now in COVID protocol in Vegas. And that's definitely something to watch here over the next few weeks, as a decision will have to be made about whether or not NHL players will be going to the Olympics. The Pittsburgh Penguins were sold to Fenway Sports Group on Monday. The transaction is subject to approval by the NHL's Board of Governors. They own the Red Sox, of course, Liverpool, NASCAR racing team, and Fenway Park. John Henry, principal owner, LeBron James among the partners as well. So like I've said a few times, it'll be interesting to see how the Red Sox interact with the Bruins. Traditionally there's some wishing of good luck. Bruins players will throw out first pitches, things like that. Will that be impacted by the fact that they now own the Penguins? Who knows? Possibly. So we'll see how that plays out once the Red Sox are back in action and the Bruins kind of get into the playoffs and things like that. Anyways, that is it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. Again, DeBrusk wants out. Marchand is out with a suspension. And be a different looking lineup tonight for sure against the Detroit Red Wings, a game that they do really need to win here. Taylor Hall really needs to step up at the very least, and he'll get that opportunity to play with with Bergeron and Pasternak in Marchand's absence. So like I said, I'm off to Niagara later today. Probably won't have an episode up tomorrow morning, but if something happens, you can expect to hear from me for sure, and definitely be back on Thursday with a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Take care, friends.